This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Hey, good morning, Rabbi. I want to share with you a question on the Megillah, and this question is really troubling me. It's a very strong question, and we're going to say a beautiful taras. The Gemara says like this. The Gemara says on the pasuk in Yeshaya, it says, Tachas hanatzutz yala beroish. Instead of the thorn will rise a cypress. The sachas haserpad yala hadas. And instead of the thistle will rise a myrtle. So who is this referred to? Tachas hanatzutz is Haman. In the place of Haman, who made himself an avodah zarah, will arise the cypress as Mordechai, the head of all Basamim. And instead of Vashti, who's called the serpad, will rise a hadas, which is Esther, the tzaddikus, who's called a hadasa. The pasuk continues, V'haya lashem lashem. God will make a name for himself. How will God make a name for himself? Says the Gemara, Zu Mikra Megillah. Through Mikra Megillah, Hashem makes a name for himself. So about the following question. That means there's only one place in the whole Tanakh where it says that Hashem made a big name for himself. Where? The pasuk, V'haya lashem lashem. And how did Hashem make a name for himself? By Mikra Megillah. That's the strangest thing I ever heard. Because it's the one place where Hashem's name doesn't appear. So you give me a 500 terutzim why Hashem's name doesn't appear in the Megillah, but don't tell me that the way Hashem made a name for himself is through Mikra Megillah. How do you want to say he made a name for himself in Bereshis because his name appears 5,000 times? You want to say he made a name for himself in any other sefer because his name appears multiple times? But why would we pick Dafka, the book, where his name does not appear, as the place that he made a name for himself? Okay, good question, right, Mendy? Mendy likes it, so it must be a good question. Okay, so the answer I want to suggest is as follows. We said a different answer a different time, but the answer is like this. As a hakdama to davening, we say the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel Omer b'shloish esrei midos hatayra nidreshes v'hem kava chomer gzeir shava binyanav. The question is, why in the world are we saying the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel? We're not about to learn Gemara. If you want to learn, I would say, before you learn Gemara, you should say the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel. There are 13 hermeneutical principles of exegesis. So you want to know what the methodology of Gemara is, say the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel. But why start davening with the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel? Okay, so the Maggid says, and it's also a Malbim in the Sefer Eretz Chemna at the end of Parshas Behaloischa, that Moshe Rabbeinu davens when Miriam has saras. Moshe Rabbeinu says the following tefillah: Kel na refa nala. What we know, Kel is one of Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim. So Moshe Rabbeinu is invoking the midah of Kel. So Rav Tzvi here, the Maggid says like this: that the 13 principles with which the Torah is expounded, Yud Gimel Midas Shatar Nidreshes Behem, correspond to Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim. If you want to bring out one of Hashem's attributes of mercy, learn the corresponding midah of Yud Gimel Midah Shatar Nidreshes Behem. So, for instance, so what's the first of Yud Gimel Midah Shatar Nidreshes Behem? Kava Chomer. What's the first of Yud Gimel Midah Harachamim? So we would say Hashem, Hashem, Kel, right? But the Arizal says Hashem, Hashem is not part of it. The first of Yud Gimel Midah Harachamim is Kel. So if you want to be ma'orer, you want to bring out Hashem's midah rachmim of Kel, what do you need to do? You need to learn Kavachomers. So they say like this. This is a Malbim. This is brought in the Bnei Yissaschar in the name of the Maggid. Mamish, something incredible. Moshe Rabbeinu davens Kel narafan Allah. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to be ma'orer, the midah of Kel. What's the next pasuk? A Kavachomer in the Torah. Hashem says, if her father would spit in her face, she would have to be locked up 7 days. I'm spitting in her face, so at the very least she needs to go into seclusion for 7 days. Why is Rebbeinu Shalom making a Kavachomer? The Medrash even says this is one of the 10 Kavachomers in the Torah. Why is Hashem saying a Kavachomer? The answer is, Moshe Rabbeinu davened with Kel. Hashem says, you want the Midas Harachmim of Kel? Learn Kavachomer. If you learn Kavachomer, that will be ma'orer, my midah of Kel. So I'm going to tell you a very interesting thing. But let's say you don't go like that, Rizal. Let's say you go like the Rishonim, that the first midah of the Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim is Hashem, right? So if you wanted to bring out the midah of Yud Kei Vav Kei, what would you have to learn? Kavachomer. Listen to this Gemara. The Gemara Megillah says on Daf Yudalid, There are 48 Nevi'im for Klal Yisrael, 7 Nevi'os. They never took away from the Torah. They never added to the Torah. The only thing they ever added to the Torah. So there's 613 mitzvahs. The prophets never took away, they never added, except Mikra Megillah. What did they darshan? Says the Gemara, they darshan the Kal V'chomer. Uma me avdus l'cheres amrinan shira. If when we left Mitzrayim, which was servitude to freedom, we sang shira. Mimisa l'chayim, from death to life. Loy kol shekain, we have to sing shira. What's the shira? Megillas Esther. So if you would look at Megillas Esther, what is it? It's a Kal V'chomer, that's what it is. It's a document of Kal V'chomer. What does a Kal V'chomer correspond to? Yud, K, Vav, K. So if you want to know how Hashem made a name for himself, so we have a book. You want to know what is this book? This book is Yud, K, Vav, K, but it doesn't say it in the book. Chacham from the Manishtana. It doesn't have to say it in the book. The entire book is a Kal V'chomer, and Kal V'chomer is the Midah of Yud Kei Vav Kei. If you want to know how God made a name for himself, the only thing ever added to the Torah through the procedure of Kal V'chomer is Mikra Megillah. That's how Hashem made a name for himself. Rabbi, have a great day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.